So, Lenz, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm so excited
to be here.
So why don't you start and just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and about your family, and then we can dive into your pregnancies, birth stories, all the fun stuff.
So yeah, Lenzie Davies, married to Brandon Davies. We've been living this European lifestyle for 9 years, I think. I have 3 children, a 7-year-old daughter, 5-year-old son, and 3-year-old son. They've all been born in different countries.
Yeah.
So I had my daughter in the States and the rest or the other 2 in Europe. And yeah, living in Spain now, loving it. And yeah,
I love that.
Been an adventure.
Yeah. It's been so fun because Barcelona, we had both our kids with the same OB.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, when I met you, you had 1 baby. Now you have 3.
Yeah.
I was not even married.
Weren't even thinking about
now
babies.
I have 2 and they're like all best friends. So it's been so fun. Okay. So let's talk about your first pregnancy. I didn't know you at this point.
Yeah. You didn't know me yet.
Where were you?
I got pregnant in Italy.
Okay.
We were living in Varese, just north of Milan.
Okay.
We'd only been married for a few months, but I was honestly kind of bored.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, what else am I going to do? Let's start having babies. So I was pretty adamant about having my first in the States, like giving birth in the States. I was fine to do the pregnancy overseas.
Okay.
But just because I was pretty terrified of giving birth, I tried to plan it to have her in the summer to where I could give birth in the States. So luckily it worked out that way. I got pregnant right away. And so her birthday is in August. She was born in August.
Okay.
So I had her in Utah. So I had a few months of like when we got home to find I went with a midwife, the first pregnancy, to find a midwife and kind of get settled in and get ready. And then turns out, of course, things never go to plan. Brandon had to go overseas early.
Oh my gosh.
Like the 1 year he had to be there August 3rd. And I'm like, I think my due date was August 17th. So I'm like, great.
Yeah.
I just planned this perfectly and now it's not going to plan. So we asked his coach if he could come home for the birth. He was like kind of not having it. So he was like, okay, I'll give you like 48 hours to fly from Europe.
It's like 2 days. Okay, great. So
to fly from Europe to the States. So I luckily was able to be induced and just kind of hoped and prayed that it would work out. Yeah. Went to the hospital on my own with my mom. He got on a plane.
Oh my gosh. So he wasn't there when you started getting it?
Oh my gosh. I think he was on the plane when I got to the hospital. He was on the plane. So I knew everything had like so far gone according, as long as there was no diversions, he would like make it. So they started slowly just kind of they didn't know how fast my body would react to being induced. So started slow. Anyway, so when he landed, they started the Pitocin, like, okay, let's get this going, broke my water. So, and then he got to the hospital probably like around 5 and 8 o'clock, she was born. Oh my gosh. He went straight from the airport to the hospital.
Oh my gosh. So at what point were you induced? Like how far along were you?
It was 1 week early. Exactly 1 week is how early they would do it.
Okay.
So I was dilated at the time. That was another like contingent they had to have. You have to be dilated to, I think like a 1.5 or something. Okay. And she would do it. So I went in, they checked and I was, so they were fine. Okay. Fine with that. So luckily my body responded really well to everything. And I was only in actual labor pushing for probably 20 minutes and she was born. And so luckily, again, everything went super smooth at that point. We were able to take her home the next day. Yeah. So Brandon had 1 night with us. Oh my gosh. And then the next morning I had to take him. So I'm literally 24 hours postpartum. Yeah. Having to take my husband to the airport. But luckily my parents were there, so they drove. And that was the hardest goodbye I've ever said in my life. Like we just shared this beautiful experience together. Yeah. And now I'm on my own. Yeah. On my own. Yeah. So, and then I didn't know how long it was going to take to get the passport, to get the shots. Oh, yeah. So I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to see you. Yeah. So that was really hard. But I am glad I did it in the States and it was like in English and I could just like feel comfortable with everything when I just didn't know what to expect. So
did you have prenatal care in Italy? I'm assuming you had to have.
Yeah, I did. It just, he didn't speak any English. Okay. It was a small town, and so there was just, I was never super comfortable. It was fine, but I just was never, they always said, okay, good. Like everything was good. But until I got to the States, I was always a little unsure of like how everything was going. So
yeah. Did you go back like in between and see someone? Like, did you find someone before? You just waited, went in the summer, got the person. Okay.
Luckily, we didn't I think we didn't make playoffs, or if we did, we only made the first round. So we were able to be home, I think the end of May.
Okay.
So I had all of June, all of July to find somebody and get ready.
How did you go about finding someone? Did you have friends that had given birth?
Oh, ironically, I was signing up for insurance. I didn't have insurance in the States.
Okay.
So I got home, I needed to get insurance. I didn't know how it all worked. So I asked the lady that was giving me insurance.
Okay.
I said, yeah, I'm pregnant. And so she was in Utah as well. And so I said, I need to find an OBGYN. And she was like, can I recommend somebody to you? Like my insurance lady.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I was like, I would love that. And she goes, yeah, this company, they take your insurance, and this lady is amazing. I know so many people have gone with her. I'm like, okay, great. Oh, so I reached out to her. She really was amazing.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay. So I want to talk about that a little bit too, because I feel like that's a big thing over here, especially like girls with the insurance stuff. Like, how did you go about getting insurance if you were pregnant when you got it, or you already had it before?
I was pregnant when I got it.
Okay.
So this was,
I don't know if you remember,
8 years ago. Yeah. 8 years ago. I think I did have to pay, a higher fee because I was pregnant, but I had to say, like, I told them, like, my husband is a basketball player overseas. I am moving, I'm relocating. So in those circumstances, I think they have to take you on when your husband like loses their job. Okay. Cause I'm like, he's not employed anymore. Yeah. We don't have a contract at that point.
Yeah. That's true.
So I think because of like circumstantial changes, they have to take you on. Okay. Is what I remember. And so I just explained that to her, and she's like, yeah. Like we'll take you on. So I got like the best care because I knew it was only going to be a few months. I'm like, I'll just pay a lot. Have good care. Yeah. And then when we end up back overseas, I'll cancel it. But.
Yeah, for sure. No, that I think that's like a big thing that people think about too. It's like you have to make that decision also of, okay, am I going to give birth overseas because of the insurance stuff? Like if you don't have insurance in the States, right, then trying to think about that, maybe even before you start thinking about getting pregnant. Okay, maybe I need to get covered for a little bit before. Cause I know like, at least I was looking into it a bit ago, and like you needed to be covered for like a full year, I think, before they would cover you in the States for pregnancy. But maybe in that situation, like I never looked into it for that kind of situation.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it could have been just because he lost his job or relocating, moving. So you have to change insurance. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, luckily I didn't have any issues, and everything worked out. Yeah. Great. But that's always a struggle. Even now with the kids, it's like, okay, do I keep my insurance in the States? Do I just get it in the summer? But can you even do that? That's always a struggle with
that's so
lifestyle.
True. Okay. So then postpartum, you were home for a few months. How was postpartum?
Luckily, I did everything so quick, like just fell into place. Okay. We were home for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So I traveled. Okay. Yeah. 3 weeks postpartum. Luckily, I didn't have any big issues with the pregnancy. So I was healthy. I was fine. I felt good. Okay. So we, moved to Monaco at that time. He had signed with Monaco. So we, 3 weeks old. My mom went with me out there to help me with the flight and stuff. Yeah. I was breastfeeding, so I didn't have to worry about bottles and things like that, which was nice, but,
it makes it so much easier.
Yeah. But here I am, like 3 weeks postpartum with a baby, moving to a country that I've never been to. Yeah. Don't speak the language. Yeah. Haven't, what am I going to do with this? And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be on the beach. I'm going to get this, stroller that has the jogging stroller with the big wheels. Yes. And then I get to Monaco and it's like stairs. Okay. Guess we're going to go with the baby carrier.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So do you think that if you knew that you were going to Monaco, you would have like maybe reconsidered delivering overseas, or was it just you, no matter where you guys were, you were like, that was a plan?
I mean, if I didn't get pregnant right away, I knew I was open to whatever. Okay. But if we could plan it to where I could have the first in the States, for me, that was kind of a big deal. Like, I just want to know what it's like. Yes. In a comfortable place. Yeah. Obviously, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Yeah. But, and we didn't know, I mean, until I think a week before Brandon left that we were even going to Monaco. At that point, he was kind of fighting for contracts. And so it was just kind of like, hey, you're going here, pack up your bags. Yes. So we had no idea. Yeah. So I'm glad that it worked out that way. But once obviously once you deliver one and you realize like, okay, I can do this. Yeah. Then I was comfortable wherever you sign. Yes. We'll just deal with it.
Yeah. And during during your first pregnancy, were you doing like prenatal classes? Were you like, how did you know? I mean, not that you knew, I guess it just kind of fell into your lap to go with a midwife, but you went with a midwife. Like, did you know what the difference was between a midwife and an OB?
The insurance lady actually did explain to me, just like she's a much more natural belief, and so she's very anti, if it's possible, anti C-section, things like this. I mean, you deliver in the hospital, things like that. She just kind of goes about it a more natural way. So no, I didn't know the difference. She just recommended her, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna go meet her, see her thoughts, see her beliefs, and I just like fell in love with her when I met her and felt like, okay, we're on the same page here of like, let's make this as smooth as can be.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's cool. That's like, I mean, awesome that you ended up
lucky.
Yeah, that happened and you didn't even like mean for it too. Amazing. Okay, so you had a great first pregnancy, first delivery, and you got induced, which it turned out to be a great induction, which is also amazing because I feel like that's not always the case for people,
especially a week early on your first baby.
Yes.
It was and now I think back like, wow, that was risky. Like, I'm really lucky that worked out.
No, and I mean, everything went smooth. Like it seems like you didn't have like really any major interventions. They used Pitocin. I'm sure they used like Cytotec first, or
probably. No, because I had already dilated.
Okay.
Because that's what they put on the cervix.
They usually use it like to thin you out. But maybe you were.
No, I was effaced. I was effaced.
Okay.
Yeah, I was effaced a good amount, 80% or something. So they were totally fine.
So then, that makes more sense though, because I feel like it's just so hard with these girls that are especially first time delivering. You're getting induced. You're not dilated. You're not effaced. Like you're going in like what happened to me, and then it turns out to be a failed induction, or you have all these interventions and it ends up being just like such a hard labor. And, but when you are a little bit dilated and effaced to start, it does usually make it a little bit better.
Which I love that she was like, I'm not going to do it if you're not ready. Like, I am fine doing it if your body seems ready, but if it's not, we're not pushing it. Yes. So it was risky again, because Brandon's on a flight home. We're thinking, she checked me the week before. And at that point, I think I was like half centimeter dilated. So she said, I think we're going to be fine by next week, but still, we got to play it by ear. And so, it's always risky.
Okay. But that's, I mean, obviously amazing that it turned out the way it did and everything was great. And you guys were able to go back overseas quickly, which is awesome. Okay. So let's go on then to your second pregnancy.
Yeah. So then let's see, we moved to Lithuania.
Okay.
And Zaylee was she probably about 1. And I didn't feel like I was really ready for another baby yet, but I'd started thinking about it.
Okay.
Turns out I get pregnant. We weren't being super careful, but we weren't trying either at the time.
Yeah.
So I was a little in shock. Well, and what happened is I didn't start my period. And so I thought, okay, what's going on here? I'm always so regular.
Yeah.
I mean, to the day, so regular.
Yeah.
So I took a test, came back positive. Brandon was out of town, of course.
Yeah.
So I call him. I think it was actually even game day. I call him. I'm like, or no, it had to have been the day before. I just left. I'm like, I'm pregnant. I just took a test. It's positive. He's like, oh my gosh, like, this is great.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's a little close, but okay. The next day is game day. I wake up, I'm bleeding.
Oh.
I'm like, it's weird. That never happened with my last pregnancy. So call Brandon. I'm like, this is so weird. I'm like spotting. I'm having blood.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, we'll go to the doctor. Because at this point, all I have is a positive pregnancy test.
Yeah.
But that was it. So he makes me an appointment right away, emergency style. I go because I'm freaking out. I'm by myself in Lithuania, no family around, nothing. I'm like, what is happening? Let's go to the doctor. She checks. She's like, okay, you're so early. I can see that there is a pregnancy there. At this point, I can't tell what's happening. If the bleeding stops, you're fine. Don't worry about it. If it doesn't stop, this is, a miscarriage. Okay. So I'm obviously so upset about this.
Yeah.
Brandon gets home. A few days actually went by, and I want to say like the bleeding stopped. So I'm like, okay,
so maybe it was just like implantation bleeding or something.
This was a freak thing.
Yeah.
And then like a week later, full period starts.
Okay.
And I'm like, shoot.
Yeah.
So lost that pregnancy, but then I started thinking, wait a minute, I got really excited about that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think I was ready for another baby, but then thinking I could be pregnant, I got really excited. So then we decided, okay, we're gonna start trying. So I waited 1 month just to kind of get my cycle back on track. And then we started trying for the second. It did take a few months to get pregnant with my son, probably about 4 months of trying. And I found out on Father's Day. I think it was like Lithuanian Father's Day, but that I was pregnant. So I got to tell Brandon on Father's Day that we were having another baby. So I found out in Lithuania. We were coming back to Lithuania the next year. So that was kind of nice. So I said, okay, I can find a good OBGYN, do everything here. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I had a friend there, Grace, who had she had Bosco yet? She either was pregnant and I think she was pregnant and about to have Bosco. So she already had a great.
No, she had him.
I can't remember if
because she had him like right when she got there.
Yeah. So she'd given birth there, had a great experience. So I felt pretty comfortable giving birth there.
Yeah.
So he was due in February. So I went home that summer. I mean, I was barely pregnant though. So I honestly I probably went and saw the doctor one time.
Yeah.
Just for like the maybe 12-week appointment was in the States, and then everything else was done in Lithuania. So,
and I can't remember, but you ended up going with someone different than Grace, right? Okay. What made you decide that?
So she did the American hospital in Vilnius. It was probably an hour drive. And so I just felt a little nervous about Brandon being gone, having to drive and that far. And I said, okay, I'm just going to go check out the hospital that's close by, meet with the nurse or the OBGYN there. Ended up loving it. She spoke pretty good English. I felt comfortable. The team had really good relations with her. Other women had given birth. No one I knew personally, but like other players and stuff had given birth with her. So I felt pretty good about it. And so we just decided that to have a hospital closer was going to be a better option.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah. It was hard because none of the, obviously all my OBGYN appointments were fine because they were with her in English. But then when it came time to give birth, zero English.
Oh gosh.
And Lithuanian and things. Like I have no chance. I have no chance. So that was an interesting birth.
Yeah. So what was like, is there a big difference in your mind between your prenatal care that you got in Italy, the US versus Lithuania?
I feel like they were a little more hands-on actually in Lithuania, like checking things a little deeper. In the States, it was more like, okay, yep, you're good.
Yeah.
See ya. And you know what? I don't even think I did the glucose test
in Lithuania.
I was totally on schedule for everything. Weight was fine. Health was fine. They checked my blood quite a few times throughout. Everything seemed fine. Mm-hmm. So I think they said, as long as things are looking fine, we actually don't do that.
Yeah.
So I didn't even do the glucose test there. So they were a little more relaxed, I guess, maybe about that, as long as things are healthy, we don't need to pump you with sugar and see how your sugar is.
Yeah. No.
But other than that, pretty similar. A point, every 2 weeks at the end, other than that, once a month. Like that was pretty similar.
Yeah. I always ask that because I feel like talking to girls over here, some of the countries, they do like appointments with a midwife beforehand, and you're doing classes with them, or I don't know, just different things like that in the States we don't really do. Right. It's like you choose OB or midwife, so I don't know if there's something like that in Lithuania that
I think they did give me the option to do classes, or they did, but I think they were all in Lithuanian, so I thought because it's really going to benefit me.
Yeah.
Am I going to understand?
Yeah, that makes
sense. I just kind of chose, and at that point I had a baby. If it was my first, I maybe would have felt a little more
I'll get a translator maybe and do this.
But since I kind of knew what I was doing somewhat, I felt pretty comfortable just going with the flow.
Okay. I love that. Okay, so then tell us a little bit about your birth.
Yeah. So he, again, I was induced. They were a little more strict. They said, we're not inducing you until after your due date.
Okay.
Which I was a little nervous about. Cause I'm like, well, what if
you go into labor?
I go into labor early? Yeah. Like, I don't know. I didn't go into labor the last time. So I really don't know my body. Of course, Brandon has a tournament that weekend.
It's like the mid-season tournament.
Of course.
Oh my God.
Of course. It was February.
Yeah.
So mid-season tournament, it's in Vilnius, an hour away. So I flew my mom out just in case. I'm like, I can't count on him. So you got to be there just in case. So due date rolls around. I think I'd had scheduled to be induced a few days after that if I didn't go into labor on my own.
Okay.
We're sitting at the tournament in Vilnius, and I start having contractions, and I've never had contractions before at this point because I got induced. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going into labor right now. Of course, I don't know,
Yeah.
I just know that I'm having contractions at this point.
Yeah.
Then they went away. Then that night they started again. We're staying in a hotel in Vilnius. And then they went away. So I kept tracking them like, okay, no, they're not super close yet, but I could tell my body was getting ready.
Yeah.
So still 2 days later, I still hadn't gone into labor. I was having contractions here and there, but never went into labor. So the induction date comes. I go to the hospital, get all hooked up. They check me. They're like, oh yeah, you're ready to have this baby.
Yeah.
So they start, I'm doing, I think they actually just broke my water right away. They're like, we're not even going to give you Pitocin because you're already dilated. We're just going to break your water, see how it goes. They break my water. I start getting contractions really hard. And I'm like, okay, I'm really feeling these. It's getting really painful. Like I'm ready for it. And I'd already told the OBGYN that I wanted an epidural. Like that was clear from the beginning.
Yeah.
Time comes and I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready for that epidural. And they're like, no, you don't need it. Uh-huh. I'm like, no, but I do need it. I do. You're strong. You're strong. They don't speak any English, mind you. My doctor's like not there yet. I'm like, no, I know I'm strong, but like, I want it. Yeah. I need it. So they were like not having it. So finally I was like, no, please, like give me the epidural.
Yeah.
Like, okay, finally I talk him into it. So the anesthesiologist comes in, and hilarious guy. He did luckily speak some English.
Yeah.
And so I have to get the epidural as I'm going through contractions. I'm sitting on the bed. He does it, but they do it different there. And I don't know enough about epidurals to say why.
Yeah.
But it was a bag that had the medicine in it, and it had a button, and every 20 minutes it would release 5 milliliters of pain medication.
Okay.
If I needed more before that 20 minutes was up, I could press the button and it would give me 1 milliliter.
Okay.
However, if I did that, it would push the 20 milliliters by like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like, you don't really want to do that because then you're just going to push your like big set of dose of medication. Yeah. So I always like try to not, but like that, 15-minute mark, I'm like, oh, these are getting bad again. So I went through that for about an hour, and I was probably about an hour, and or maybe about an hour and a half.
Okay.
And then I get the dose of the 20 milliliters and I'm feeling pretty good. Well, then like the bag starts to run out, like the bag's gone. So it's time to replace the bag.
Yeah.
So they come in, okay, we need to replace the bag. Let's check you. At this point, my contractions are getting pretty strong because I haven't had a dose in 20 minutes at this point. Let's check you. I'm like, okay, you are ready. We see the hair, we see the head, you are ready. I'm like, but the bag, like, we don't have time. I'm like, no, okay. So they get the doctor in there. They just start like, you don't get any more epidural. I'm like, okay. And it is, I mean, you would know this better as a nurse. I think it was like a walking epidural. Is that
I'm sure.
something? Because the whole time I could get up. They never did a catheter. I never had a bed. Like if I needed to go to the bathroom, I could get up.
Yeah.
Even when I had the full epidural. So
yes.
Anyway, so I gave birth without. I mean, I had epidural in me, so it wasn't full pain.
Yeah,
but
you could feel.
I could feel everything.
Which so you with your first you had an epidural, you couldn't feel anything.
A thing.
Okay, so what did you feel more in control with like your pushing this time?
100%.
Okay.
With Zaylee, I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. I knew I was pushing hard, and they're like, "Wow, you're great at pushing."
Yeah.
But like I couldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
They're all of a sudden like, "Okay, she's here," and I'm like, "Okay, I did it."
Yeah.
But no, I couldn't feel anything. And then I couldn't walk they wouldn't let me walk for probably 8 hours after I gave birth to her. And when I did finally get up to walk to use the bathroom, peed everywhere.
Yeah.
Couldn't control anything. I had no control of my bladder. I'm like, well, this is terrible.
Yeah.
And even to get her out of the bed was so difficult because I couldn't feel the whole bottom half of my body.
Yes.
So different with Kay's. The minute after I gave birth, I got up and I never had a catheter, never had a bedpan, got up and used the bathroom.
Yeah.
I felt so powerful, like pushing him out. I think truthfully, that was my favorite birth.
Yeah.
Because I was able to feel it a little bit to,
Yeah.
To feel like holy crap, this is
tons
painful.
of pain, but like,
just took the edge off. I think.
Yeah.
And I only had 2 pushes and he was out. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But I remember, sitting there looking at Brandon, like, hey, push, and I'm pushing. Okay, one more push. And Brandon just, go. And just that like strong, powerful, like so empowering as a woman to like really feel that like I pushed him out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love actually like that was, which is so funny that like in Lithuania was my favorite birth.
Yeah.
Without epidural, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was amazing. And so 2 pushes, he was out, super healthy, got up and walked around. My recovery after, I'm telling you, I don't know if it was because I wasn't on the epidural so long.
Yeah.
Or the Pitocin so long. I don't know what it was. After my first birth in Utah, I had the most horrible raging headache. I was like, this is like a, you know, when druggies like need their drugs or something. I'm like, why is my head hurting so bad? And for days I was just like, well, out of it. Recovered so fast. Okay. It's just like only 2 hours being on medicine versus a whole day 100%. Was such a difference. Such a difference. So my recovery was incredible.
Yeah. No,
didn't tear at all.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, that's more common, especially the tearing part when you're not on an epidural, because you can control it more. Like, yes, you were on an epidural, but you could still feel it. And when you can feel what you're doing with pushing, it makes such a difference.
Totally.
So I think, you know, that's kind of nice. I think that like, it's actually really common in the UK to do the walking epidural.
Okay.
It's not super common in other places, but I think you can actually ask for it in a lot of places. People just don't know that they can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I had no idea.
Yeah.
I'm like, why?
It's like either epidural or not. But yeah, I think there's, I mean, I don't know if it's every hospital in every place. But I feel like you should always ask, because the worst thing they can say is no.
We don't, yeah.
Because of that reason, it's like you can control it. You can still move around better than when you have regular epidural, you know?
Yeah, maybe it doesn't completely take the pain away, but it takes it enough to where you can do it. It's manageable, very manageable.
Yeah. And like you said, it just makes your pushing stage just so much more like you can feel, you know what's going on. Cool that you were like, I have no idea what's going on, but great.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's awesome. So then you recovered. How long was your stay in the hospital in Lithuania?
That was wild.
Yeah.
They wanted me to stay for 3 days, which is funny because in the States, 24 hours, they're like, you ready to go home? I'm like, I guess. Okay. Yeah, I kick you out. Lithuania, like, no, you're staying 3 days. You have to be here until we can do the foot prick on the baby, you know, all the, you know, the different things they have to do. After a day, Brandon comes. He had a EuroLeague game that night after Case was born. And he comes to the hospital and I'm just bawling. I'm like, get me out of here. I don't care if they take us to jail. Like we're breaking out. Like I cannot do this anymore. It was in the middle of winter and Lithuania is so cold, so dark. They have the heat on full blast.
Oh my gosh.
And again, I can't communicate with any of these nurses. They're telling me that Kay's is, his body is really cold. So they keep putting blankets on me and heat lamps on me. And I'm like, I am sweating and he's on me. And you know, like babies regulate your temperature. So I'm like, if I am sweating and so hot and he's on me, like skin to skin, there's no way this kid is cold. He was kind of doing like a weird, like, thing. And so I don't know if that's why they thought, you know, something was wrong or whatever. Finally, I tell them, I go, I don't even know if I translated it or somehow just said like, you have to get a new thermometer. Like, there's no way this baby is cold. They get a new thermometer. This baby is fine.
No,
this baby is fine. I've been sweating my butt off for the last 3 hours and this baby is fine. The thermometer was not working.
Oh my gosh.
I think I told her, I said, check me. And they checked me like, you're kind of cold too. I'm like, I'm not cold. I promise you. I am not cold right now. Yes. And so that's why I was like, you got to get a new thermometer. So they did. And then, he was fine. Gosh. So I think at that point is when I lost it. I'm like, I can't. This is my second baby. He's breastfeeding fine. Like everything is fine. I need to get out of here. So Brandon ended up, I don't know, having the team call and was like, she's out of there. Like, she's going home. I said, I promise I'll bring him back in 2 days to do all of his shots and stuff, but we've got to get out of here. So luckily they let us leave, but.
Oh my gosh. But I feel like they're, you know, overseas, a lot of girls have kind of said this on the podcast, just talking about like the differences between like that part postpartum. I mean, with the baby, they really like to bundle them up here. So like they're just putting so many, like this is just so different from the US. So we're just not used to it. Like, you know, in the US, it's like, don't put anything on them. They're naked, like skin to skin, you know? And here it's like, they literally have like their pajamas with like a blanket, one sheet, like another blanket, a hat, like
they're bringing in these wool socks, putting wool socks on him. I'm like, is this necessary?
But even when you go outside, like walking around with the kids here, it's like, you know, it'll be like 75 and kids are wearing like down coats. I'm like, what is going on?
Always.
But yeah, it's just obviously just different cultural heard culturally.
Yeah.
Here with that stuff. So it's just so funny because we're like, okay, you don't need to. I remember being in the hospital, like every time they would take her for a little bit to like, I don't know what they were doing, like the little exams and stuff. They would bring her back to me and like have her all wrapped up in these blankets. And I was like immediately just like taking them off. Why do we have these blankets on her?
Yes.
But yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. The thermometer is just broken.
Oh, I'm like, there's no way. Yeah. And we kind of mentioned this in Lithuania. So of course I had Zaylee in the States and she was a girl. So I didn't have to even think about this, but in Lithuania, it is actually illegal to circumcise.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So that was a conversation me and Brandon had to have if that was something we wanted to look into. And we did. And so we're like, okay, we do want to do this. Like if it's illegal, like what are our options? Like, well, you can find a rabbi. Okay. They'll do it. Cause if it's like religious or medical, they will do it. That's like the exceptions. Okay. So it was kind of religious for us. So we said, okay, it's religious. Yeah. Okay. Well, then you need to find a rabbi. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, well, if we find a rabbi in a country that it's illegal to do this, like how experienced is he going to be? Yeah. Like this is my son we're talking about, you know? So again, this conversation, okay, do we risk this? Do we do this? We decided at that point, like, no, we're not going to do this. This is something a bridge we can cross later in life when we feel comfortable with it, maybe in the States over the summer or something. Yeah. So we kind of pushed it off at that point because it just didn't feel good about doing that.
Did you know going into his birth that this was the case, or did you find out after the fact?
We did. Once I found out it was a boy, again, because of Grace having her son there, I did know that. I guess at that point I didn't know it was illegal. I just knew it wasn't common. Yeah. Then when I spoke to my OBGYN about it, she said, yeah, it's actually illegal. You have to have like special permission. Yeah. So then we started looking into it more, and that's when we found all that other stuff out. So when he was born, we knew we weren't going to do it right away at that point. So
that's like, I don't know, just something to note for girls listening that are giving birth overseas is like, if you are having a boy, it's just something that you need to obviously consider. If that's something that you are thinking that you want to circumcise, because I think I've just been talking to, multiple girls, and like people are having to make those decisions and saying like, okay, it's not common at all overseas. Like I think like, I don't know, 90-something% are uncircumcised. Right. So they're really they don't see it a lot. It's not common. A lot of doctors don't do it. I have no idea how to do it. So you do have to do your research on that and just see like, okay, if there's a doctor, or if you're just going to wait until you go back to the States or whatever, or just don't do it, so making those decisions and just thinking about them. But yeah, so you guys decided not to. And then,
at that point we just decided that we weren't going to do it at that point. We'll cross the bridge later in life. Yeah. But we went back to the States that summer, and I don't remember why we didn't choose to do it then. I don't know if we just never kind of came up, or we just,
you're just living life.
Waited while living life. Yeah. Yeah. Then we went to Barcelona.
Yeah. And then you got pregnant with your third that next year, right?
Yeah. So actually after Kay's, I had another miscarriage. Okay. So in between all the kids I've had 2 miscarriages. Yeah. That one was farther along. So again, which is funny that both times my miscarriages have been the times that we weren't trying to get pregnant. Yeah. I don't know if it's God's way of telling me like, it's time. Yeah. Have another kid. Yeah. So I got pregnant, really shocked with that one actually. But again, was like excited, like, oh, okay, this is something that we want.
And this was during COVID, right?
It was during COVID.
Yeah, I remember that.
Actually, I think I got pregnant right before everything kind of like went crazy. Okay. Because when I had the miscarriage, I was about 9 weeks. And so we were in COVID at that point.
Yes.
So that was kind of hard because I it's like difficult to see a doctor.
Yeah.
Couldn't leave the house. So I luckily, I think I had seen the OBGYN, yours, the same one. Yeah. I had seen her a few times just, for checkups and things. So I had her email, and I think I even reached out to you at that point and maybe got her email or something.
Yeah. I think I had her number. So I gave you her like WhatsApp.
Yeah. Actually, I remember calling you and being like, I'm bleeding. Should I be worried? Yeah. You had shared your experience with me. With the polyp. And so I said, okay, maybe it's not that. I'm going to wait a little bit because I had the previous miscarriage. I knew like, okay, we'll see what happens. Yeah. Maybe it's something else. Yeah. And then I started, bleeding heavy again. This time was interesting though, because I was farther along. So I remember going to the bathroom one day and wiping, and had a full sack of, I couldn't see the baby, but I had a full sack in my hand.
Yeah.
I started bawling, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I did take a picture before, just so I could ask the OBGYN about it.
Yeah.
But I knew.
Yeah.
So that was that was harder to deal with because it was farther along and more real.
Yeah.
And then I had to pass all the
like just everything.
tissue that started forming, because I started forming a baby.
Yeah.
I still don't think I had even gone to, or maybe I had one ultrasound at that point at 6 weeks to see that I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So, and I think we did. Yeah. So anyways, so that was hard. And then
did you have to go in and get, like, did she give you things to take?
No.
Okay.
So I was really lucky. She had me come in. She let me, go through the whole cycle.
Yeah.
And then she had me come in
just to make sure
about a week later to check everything and make sure my body had flushed everything out. So she said, we don't need to do anything.
Okay.
Your body took care of it. So it was hard. And at that point, I'm like, I've had 2 miscarriages. Like, why is this happening? And she actually said it was very normal to have 2. She said, if you have another, then we need to start investigating. Mm-hmm. But it's actually very normal for women to have 2. And there was probably something wrong, with the egg or whatever. And your body is doing what it's supposed to do. And that gave me a little comfort, just feeling like, okay, that was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But again, then I started, I got really excited. Okay. Yeah. So then we decided to start trying for the 3rd. So, but then, COVID happened. I'm like, do we really want to do this?
Yeah.
So we waited a few months, and then that summer, I think we started trying again. And it did take me a few months again to get pregnant with Enzo. So then I got pregnant with the 3rd in Barcelona. His due date was in April. Another boy. So here we go again with the circumcision dilemma, which now brought it because we hadn't done case still at that point.
Yeah.
So like, okay, we're having 2 boys. Yes. Like we gotta figure this out now. We'd kind of just put it on the back burner.
Yeah.
So we had a personal assistant at the time to help us with like the language barriers. So I asked him to kind of look into it. Can you find somebody for me?
Yeah.
So he ended up doing a bunch of research and found a doctor in Barcelona that they called the Ferrari of circumcisions.
Oh my God.
Hilarious. He's the Ferrari of circumcisions. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, oh, he's the best. He's the best in the business. I'm like, okay.
In the business.
Yeah, in the business.
In the business where they don't do circumcisions over
here.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like, great. He's the only one.
Right. He's the best. Not much competition. But okay. So I was pregnant with Enzo, and I was hoping like, okay, if I meet with him now, we get it planned, I can just, have Kay's done and Enzo done at the same time, right when he's born.
Yeah.
Well, they won't do it right when they're born. They have to wait till they're 6 months old. And I think, was it? It might have even been a year, honestly. I think the issue is that you could either wait till they were 6 months old, but then they have to stay the night in the hospital, or you can wait till they're a year, something like that. And then you can like take them home right away.
Okay.
So I think we opted to do the 6 month because I wanted to do it earlier. So I think I stayed the night in the hospital with him.
Okay.
To have him checked on throughout the night, which actually was kind of nice because then they took care of it for that first 24 hours.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had Kay's done right before Enzo was born with this guy. And I mean, it was an experience because it was still COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
So they had to go in for surgery. You have to be swabbed. Then they had to do blood because obviously to have a surgery, they need to know what blood type you are and, make sure everything's healthy. So that was a nightmare, taking a 2-year-old to get blood.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Holding him down, like screaming. That was a nightmare. I'm like, why are we doing this?
Oh my gosh.
But it was great. I mean, he was 2 when we had it done for him. And so it was probably a week of like pretty bad pain, him crying every time he would go to the bathroom. He wasn't potty trained yet. And so he would pee in the diaper, but then it was like burning, and I was having to change it. And he could communicate at that point, you know, like it hurts. It was like so hard.
Oh my gosh.
I like probably went into the nurse like 4 times that week. Like, is it okay? And like, I don't know what it's supposed to look like, so it's so red and horrible. So I kept going in. She's like, you're fine. It's fine. She probably thought it was crazy. But it's about a week of like really bad. And then I could tell it started healing. And in 2 weeks, he was fine.
Yeah.
Then when Enzo was done, he was quite a bit younger. 3 days. And he was totally fine. And I mean, he couldn't communicate at that point.
Yeah.
But the great thing is I was still breastfeeding. So even I think, yeah, they had me, COVID restrictions were kind of over. So I was able to go back in the room with him.
Yeah.
They actually had me hold him while they put the oxygen mask on him to put him to sleep,
wow. Okay.
which was great because he felt comfortable in mom's arms.
Yeah.
Where with Kay's, I couldn't go back there.
Yeah.
So they just took him away.
Yeah.
And
Oh my gosh. It's so hard.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like the hardest thing in my life.
child is literally.
And then I'm just sitting in a waiting room. Yeah. Like waiting. And they won't even let you go back there to be there when he woke up. Yeah. So he wakes up, no clue where he is. Gosh. Nobody. Oh, it was probably so traumatic for him.
Yeah.
So anyway, so yeah, with Enzo, I was able to like hold him while he went to sleep. I was able to be there when he woke up. They rolled him into the room, but he hadn't like woken up yet.
Yeah.
And then I was able to nurse him right away. Anytime he would kind of be, in pain or crying, I could put him like, which is so comforting for a baby.
100%.
So I loved that. I loved that I was able to still nurse him during that. Yeah. So, and again, it was like 3 weeks or 3 days of pain for him. And then he forgot about it completely. It healed so quickly. It's actually incredible how quickly babies heal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and probably the breastfeeding was helping with that too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. So that's, obviously much nicer to do when they're a little smaller, although obviously probably still hard to make that decision to like put them under when they're that little too.
I was terrified. Absolutely. So I remember talking to my best friend in Barcelona at the time who was a doctor, and I'm like, I'm terrified to like put my baby under. And she's like, Lenzie, they do it all the time. Like they know what they're doing. It's totally fine. Like babies have to have surgeries all the time. She like made me feel more comfortable about it. But I was terrified. Yeah. Absolutely terrified.
Yeah. That's so hard. I feel like no matter when you do it, like that decision is obviously difficult to make because you're like, I'm putting my baby through pain for like a cosmetic reason, which is just so like,
Which you don't think about that, because in Lithuania, that was the thing she said to me. It's like, it's illegal here. Like, why would you want to do that? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you're going to have a cosmetic surgery performed on a baby that it's not their choice. Like you're choosing like to do that for them. I'm like, I never even thought about it that way.
I know. Because we just grew up like our culture.
Yeah. And right when they're born, like they don't even ask. They just do it.
They just do it. I know. It's so different over here. Like, and it's changing everywhere now, but it is interesting how they just are so like, what do you mean you want to do this to them? You know, and we're just so used to doing it that it's just,
Well, and it's interesting, the doctor in Barcelona, because I said, why can't you just do Enzo right when he's born? Like, so he doesn't have to be put under.
Yes.
And he's like, well, we believe babies can still feel pain. And I'm like, okay, I get, so we want to wait till we can put them under. And so I said, oh, okay. I mean, I guess I understand that. Yeah. But then I go through all this with Kay's, with the nose swab and the blood and this and that. I'm like, it would be so, it was so much pain. Him being taken away from me.
And then it's painful after for him. Yeah.
Yes. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Which they can. I mean, they have like done research on how they can feel pain with circumcision, but still like they're still feeling pain when you're doing it at 6 months, at 2 years, whenever you're doing it. So it is interesting that
when you're 12 hours old, you're just kind of so confused with what's going on anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, you can go right on the boob and have comfort in that. And again, imagine how big of a difference it was from 2 years to 6 months.
Yes.
Imagine right when you're born, how quickly like they heal. Probably a day of pain.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I know. Yeah, that is really interesting. Okay, so you were pregnant in Barcelona with your third. How was the prenatal care there compared to everywhere else you'd been before?
Very hands-on. Yeah, great. I mean, she spoke English. Yeah, had appointments every month. I think I did do the glucose test there. Yeah, I probably could have like opted out of it because everything was good, but they did have me do it there. Yeah. Yeah, she was great. I felt very comfortable. Yeah. Loved it. Gave birth in it's a private hospital. Yeah. Yeah. Hospital de Barcelona, private hospital. Oh, and I guess I should say, my birth in Lithuania was completely free. Okay. I think the only thing they like charged for was the anesthesia. Yeah. Which was like 500 euros. Yeah. And we just paid cash before we left the hospital. So. Yeah.
And actually going back to that, so how much was the US birth?
Zaylia was about 6,000.
Okay. Yeah. I think that
with really good insurance.
It's so funny how that works because I mean, I was talking to my mom about this the other day. I'm like, Olivia, I had a C-section with her birth was cheaper than Declan's vaginal delivery in the US. Yeah. And I'm like, how is that even possible? Right. Like that's crazy. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
And both times we're private hospitals. It's not like,
yeah,
insurance and we paid what, 50 euros a month for insurance at that time. And everything was covered.
Yeah.
Yep. All my prenatal care was covered, completely covered.
And she did like ultrasound, like in Barcelona, she did ultrasounds every single appointment. Yep. She was doing an ultrasound. She took like an hour long with you, like talking to you about everything. I thought that was so,
double checking. Sometimes I'd be like, is something wrong?
Yeah.
They're just like are so thorough with checking. I'm like, okay, you're great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I feel like the doctor in Barcelona, we used the same OB, and I think she was more like a midwife to me.
Yeah, I agree. She was very similar to my first.
Yeah. Than a typical like OB that you usually see. That's kind of like, okay, 5 minutes. Okay, you're good. Yep. Next patient. Like she was very, it was funny because sometimes you'd be sitting in the waiting room for like an hour. You're like, okay, like she takes so long with everyone. But then I loved it when I was the person in there because I'm like, oh, this is so nice. Like I never felt rushed when I was there. I don't know if you had that same experience, but.
Oh yeah. No, she was so great. And it's something funny too, that in the States, I mean, I never gained a ton of weight pregnant, but I gained the most with my first.
Yeah.
And I probably gained about 40 pounds. They would like check my weight. And I guess I knew like, okay, don't gain too much, but they weren't really saying much.
Yeah.
And then with Kay's, I don't know why, just living in Lithuania, I didn't really gain much weight at all.
Yeah.
And then in Barcelona, the OB there, she was like on it. You probably didn't really gain much weight, but every time I would go, like I really wasn't gaining a lot of weight, but like she would make sure like, oh, okay, you're doing well. Just, be careful, this and that. It was just so funny that they were really on you for weight. Yeah.
That is like, I mean, I've talked about this with a couple other girls too. Like in Europe, they're very conscious about the weight gain.
Yes.
Like they do not want you to gain a lot of weight, which is just so funny because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, as long as you're healthy and like exercising and eating well.
Yes,
and stuff,
it's like push.
You can't really control the weight gain, okay, yes, to a certain extent, but like realistically, like you're going to gain as much as you.
Well, I think in Barcelona, I think she was the first one to really tell me like, you don't need to eat extra. Just keep eating what you're eating.
She did say that to me too.
Yeah. You don't need to. Okay, we'll do your blood. You can maybe need to take some like extra vitamins and things, but she's like, you don't need to eat any extra.
Yeah, she was just like, eat until you're not hungry, like normal. I'm like, okay. I actually liked that though.
I did too. I love that.
For me, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if this is just me and it's a personal thing, but when I was pregnant, like sometimes I wasn't really hungry because I just felt full.
Exactly.
Like, I was like, okay. I obviously I'm still eating but I never felt like, oh my gosh, I need to eat so much. I'm so hungry.
Same.
It was especially more when I was breastfeeding that I felt like that,
Especially towards the end when your belly gets big and that's like, you just constantly feel so full.
Yeah.
So I'm like, usually at the end of my pregnancies, I never like gained a ton of weight. I just couldn't really eat much.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I feel like that too. So you were seeing her, everything was fine with pregnancy, you didn't have any issues. And then how was that birth in Barcelona?
Every birth has been a little different. So that one, I again was induced. She
because of schedule or because you were like now used to it?
Well, I was waiting, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna wait to see if I go into labor naturally. This is my chances. I kind of just wanted 3 kids, so I knew this was kind of my last chance to like maybe go into labor naturally.
Yeah.
So we waited. I think it was 2 days before my due date, but Brandon was going to be leaving like the next day, something. And so that final appointment, I'm like, okay, if I don't go into labor by like this date, will you induce me? I think it was 2 days before my due date.
Okay.
And so she said she would, so then I think we had like 2 days together before he was going to be going on probably like a 5-day road trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was induced again. And so that one I went into the hospital early in the morning. They hooked me up, or I think same thing, kind of like broke my water.
Were you again like dilated in the face already? Okay.
Yeah. So I never had to
do the
had to do it. Yeah. So I think they put me on Pitocin right away, broke my water right away. I think even they gave me an epidural right away.
Okay.
And then I just kind of like laid in the bed. I couldn't get up at that point. They did do catheter, everything. Okay. So I was just kind of laying in the bed all day. They would come check me and I was like dilating.
Did they have you like on a peanut ball and stuff?
No.
Didn't have you. Wow, okay.
I literally laid in bed all day.
Okay.
I think they thought it would go faster.
Okay.
Because I was like, once you break my water, like because of what happened with Kay's, I'm like, it's gonna happen really fast.
Yeah.
And it wasn't happening. And she kept coming in and checking. Oh no. And I'm like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
Like, this is not what happened the last time. She would turn up the epidural, like this will soften it more. So I mean, I couldn't feel a thing.
Yeah.
So then finally, when it's just after a couple hours of this, nothing's really like progressing much. She, you know, reaches her arm up there to check, and she's like, oh, he's sunny side up.
Oh,
so that's why he's not coming down into the canal, because he's face up.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh. So we need to like get him to turn or whatever. And so then I'm kind of doing different things, and like it was, you know, not really working. Yeah. And anyway, so finally I think he turned enough to where I started like progressing really fast. Like once he got in like the right position, it started happening really fast. So then she came in and was like, I'm like, I feel like I have to go number 2.
Okay.
She's like, okay, we're ready. So then they wheel you into a different room to give birth. And then again, he was like, had flipped back upside down or face up. He had like flipped back. And I'm like, why? They're like, well, you can't give birth like this, you know, like, wait a minute, you know? So then they turn me on my side, and they're like, okay, we'll come back, you know, in an hour or so and like check you. Yeah. So they leave, and I'm not kidding. 1 minute goes by, and I'm like,
I gotta
Brandon,
get this baby out.
I really feel like I have to go to the bathroom. Like and so he goes and gets him. They're like, no, she just turned onto her side. Like, there's no way. Yeah. And he's like, she's really serious about it. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, we'll come back in and check her. They took their sweet time. They come back in like, oh, okay, he's coming out. He's coming out. And I'm like, I told you. I wasn't joking. Like once he got in that position, and I'm like sideways on my, you know, this way.
Yes.
Once I did that, he flipped so quick and just started coming out.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, they just had to like quickly get the gloves on, get everything ready. Or it was like 30 seconds. And they're like, okay, we're ready.
Like halfway out already.
Really, like his hair was like coming out. And again, I'm on a full epidural, so I can't feel a thing. So I'm like, I know I feel pressure on my rectum, but like, I don't know if I should push yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they get me all set down, like, wait, okay, don't push. We got to get this, and this. Okay, push. I'm like, so I do one push. Okay, one push. And like, do you want to pull him out? And I'm like, what? Do you want to pull him out? I'm like, okay, reach down. So his whole top half was out.
Yep.
So I said, just reach under his arms.
Yep.
And pull him out. So one push, and then I just pulled him out, put him on me, and me and Brandon look at each other, and we start busting up laughing. And he's like, every birth you just got down and down and down, like 2 pushes with Kate and 1 push with Enzo. It's like the next one's just gonna come flying out.
Give birth at home.
Yeah, exactly.
That is so funny.
Yeah. So anyways, that was great. But again, I had to obviously lay forever. I couldn't get up and walk, and because it was full epidural.
Yeah. No, I feel like it's so interesting because both of my kids were the same. Like they were so high, they wouldn't drop. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't put pressure. And they're both posterior. And I do feel like having an epidural early probably like doesn't help with that situation, obviously, because you're not moving.
Yes.
So I'm surprised that they didn't do like peanut ball or something like that.
Yeah, I think they just didn't know, you know, they had no idea he was up.
In
so
that
I think,
position.
okay, if we break your water, it'll happen fast. And then when it wasn't, they're like, something else is going on.
Yeah. No, that is interesting though, because I feel like if they were doing the peanut ball and moving you side to side, it probably wouldn't have even been an issue.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But because you're like just this, what is he going to do? Like, he doesn't have any help with like gravity or anything.
Yeah, in Lithuania, they had me on that. They had me on the peanut ball the whole time through the contractions or everything until I essentially was ready to push.
Especially when you're going in for like, I don't know, I maybe I don't remember now that I'm thinking about it, like with my birth with Olivia, I don't think I had a peanut ball either. And now that I'm thinking about it, so maybe like they just didn't have them at that hospital or something.
Yeah.
Anyways, but I mean, so another thing good to note for people is like, if you do get an epidural, really definitely ask for a peanut ball because they make such a difference, especially if you're like laying in the bed for a while. Mm-hmm. But even if you're not, like, just because it enables you to move and still like have your baby be rotating, because you can move side to side. You can have the ball in between your legs in like different positions, and you can set up with the ball. Like, there's just so many things you can do with it. So definitely, if that's what you're deciding to do, always ask to use the peanut ball because it's so helpful in those situations. Okay. So then delivered, 1 push. It's amazing. And then postpartum
was amazing. So I had the 2 kids at home, obviously, because of still COVID restrictions. My parents couldn't come out, so I had 0 family there. Okay. Luckily, the coach was very flexible with Brandon's schedule. He was we planned it on a day off.
Yeah.
So he had the day off, but then, so yeah, he was able to be there for everything. And then I had a babysitter, thank goodness, at the time that I trusted really, really well. And so, but I told the midwife before, I said, I have 2 kids at home and I've never left them. Besides giving birth to my son is the first night I left my daughter. And now this is the first time I ever left my son. Like I didn't leave my kids at that point. So I said, I'm like really struggling with being away from them. So I was like, as long as everything like goes well, can I get out of here as soon as possible?
Yeah.
She's like, okay, we can see like, how it goes. So I gave birth to him at 7:07 p.m. And then everything was great. Everything was fine. They all knew it was my 3rd baby. So they were kind of making a joke about it. Like, do you need, oh, you got this. Oh, you got this. Was nursing great. One thing they checked actually, and they didn't check this with my first in Utah. They checked Enzo for tongue ties and lip ties.
Okay.
And they said that they did think he had a tongue tie. Okay. So they said, once you get out of here and, things and get that like more checked out.
Yeah.
Which I actually think Zaylee did have a lip tie that I didn't know about because breastfeeding was so painful.
Okay.
The whole time with her.
Yeah.
And then she fell when she was like 1 and like ripped this. And then I realized like, wow, that was really far down.
Okay.
And then at that point, I'd kind of learned about lip ties. And I'm like, I bet she had a lip tie the whole time. And that's why it was so painful for me because Kay's wasn't painful. Okay, the first few weeks. Then it was totally fine. So anyways, Enzo ended up having tongue tie. They just, when he was a couple of weeks old, they just with a little laser thing and totally fine. Put him right on my boob after that. Yeah. And it was totally fine. But anyway, so yeah, he was born at 7:07 p.m. The next morning they came in at like 10 and they're like, you ready to go? I was like,
that's so nice.
Really?
Oh
so I was home by noon.
Wow.
I think I had left the kids home from school that day because I knew I'd be coming home.
Yeah.
And so anyways, wasn't not even 24 hours in the hospital. They're like,
nice.
hey, just bring him back like the next day, for an hour to be checked and whatever. So they could check the hair, everything. Yeah, that was great.
So funny because like, I'm just thinking back on my deliveries. Obviously I had a C-section with Olivia. So like being in the hospital, I had to stay, like they don't give you an option. Right. You have to stay for like 3 nights or something like that. But with Declan, like I remember, and I think it probably is because like when you have kids at home, you want to get back as quickly as you can. But I remember being like, get me out of this hospital. Like, I don't need to be here. I want to go home. And just like sitting there, like, okay, I have all my stuff packed. I'm like sitting for like 3 hours waiting for the doctor to come discharge you. I'm like,
oh yes, exactly.
I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Yes.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think like over here, it's obviously different. Usually they have you stay for a lot longer. Yes. So it's nice that she was like letting you, okay with letting you go home.
I think it helped that I kind of gave her the heads up before. And even all the nurses knew like she wants to get out of here. They're like, okay, as long as everything's fine and we don't take care of her anymore.
Yeah, great.
So, and like the food's never great. Yes. You're just not comfortable. They're coming in all night. You're not sleeping well.
Yes.
Our husband, my husband's 6'10". So like him sleeping on the hospital bed is not a good situation. Yeah. So we just wanted to get out of there. So thank goodness everything went well and we got home quick.
Okay. And then one other thing I forgot to ask you about, was the postpartum care in Lithuania and the postpartum care now in Barcelona. Like, was there a difference between the two? Did you have people coming to check on you after the fact at home?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. Kays was born in February. So we were there for a few months, about 4 months before we went home. Mm-hmm. Again, I think they probably offered it.
Yeah.
They did have somebody come check on me.
Okay.
They had a wellness check.
Okay.
To like check for depression, things like that.
Yeah.
And I think they came to the house. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They came to the house.
Yeah.
And asked if I needed help, with breastfeeding and anything like that. Yeah. I think they just kind of called it a wellness check.
Okay. And who was it that came?
A nurse.
A nurse.
Okay. A nurse from the hospital. Yep.
Okay.
Came and checked on me. And I think they would keep doing it if you needed it, but she came and how it was going. I was totally fine. My mom was there helping out.
Yeah. How long after the birth was that? Do you remember?
I think it was like 2 weeks.
Okay.
They gave you a few weeks kind of get settled. If you needed it earlier, you obviously could.
Yeah.
But I think at 2 weeks you had to someone had to come check on you, which I thought was cool. Because how many women are just in the thick of it and struggling and don't reach out. So like, no. You will meet with somebody.
Yes.
They'll check on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was talking about this with like some of the other girls because in the States, they don't have that option unless you are like, okay, I want to sign up with this private pediatrician that comes to the house or whatever. Or you have a home birth midwife that's coming to your home. But other than that, like you're not seeing your doctor until 6 weeks postpartum, which for some people, like that first 6 weeks is horrible, you know, and we don't have proper postpartum care at all in the US, especially. And I'm hearing these stories of women giving birth overseas and having this like midwife that comes every couple of days to check on them. I'm like, this is incredible, you know? And I remember giving birth in Barcelona, having a nurse come, I think like a few days after or something, they checked the umbilical cord. They checked on my C-section incision, like make sure everything was good with that, and like changed the dressing and stuff. I mean, that's just just that like simple thing. It's like, okay, everything's going okay here. Breastfeeding's fine. You know, do you need any extra help? I can send someone if you need it, a lactation consultant or whatever it is, you know, and I just think it's so nice that they do that over here.
Well, yeah, especially at first or second baby, you know, when you don't know, like you don't know what the umbilical cord's supposed to look like was this supposed to fall off now, or just have that peace of mind. Cause you know, as a new mom, you're like, every little thing is like, you go into a panic. So that was nice. Yeah. I didn't have that. Yeah. I didn't have that in Utah. And then again, I did leave 3 weeks postpartum. And I think I did have one checkup with the nurse just because she knew I was leaving, just to make sure, because I had a few internal stitches. Yeah. So I did, but that was like me scheduling that. And, and obviously she was more than willing to do that for me. So everything was healing fine. But and then Barcelona, same thing. Yeah. They came and checked on everything to the apartment. And then they asked if I needed help, with breastfeeding and stuff, but things were going fine at that point. And then I think they asked me if I had found, I think they even helped me find, no, it was actually the same office that did the circumcision. Okay. They did, the same doctor did the tongue tie. Okay. So I reached out to him and they did it super quick, easy. And then breastfeeding was so much better all of a sudden. Yeah. Yeah. I bet. So that's so nice though. I mean, I think that part of it is so we forget about like, obviously the postpartum stuff. Yes. And I don't think it's talked about enough at all. We're starting to, I think, talk about it a little bit more now. But it's just, I mean, having someone come to your home, I think just makes such a difference. Yes, like 100%. When you are postpartum and you are bleeding and you have this newborn baby, like you don't want to leave your house for a little bit. Right. Like, you want to be in the comfort of your home. You want to be like settling in and just relaxing. And for someone to come and check on you it just makes such a difference, I think. So I love that part about over here. I hope that one day we adopt it more in the US because I think it's just it's so important that period of time. And I just don't think women get the help that they need a lot of the time, you know, and we don't, not that we don't, I think people just try to be strong, you know, like I don't want to ask for help. 100%. I'm fine. I'm going to figure it out. Like it's just normal. Yes, it's normal for me to feel this way. Yeah. Which it is normal to an extent. Like your body's went through a lot, is going through a lot. Your hormones are going crazy. Like, yes, it is normal to feel like overwhelmed a little bit, but you should be getting help for those things, you know, like, well, exactly. Just for peace of mind, like, is he, cause that's one thing, you know, when you start breastfeeding, is he getting enough milk? Yeah. I can't tell. I don't know how much he's drinking, you know? So things like that, or like when someone with experience in that and knowledge in that comes and tells you, yes, he's doing great. He's latching great. You're producing enough milk, or, you know, just, so peace of mind that like, hey, my baby's good. I'm good. We're healthy. Things are going well. Yeah, no. And I think, and even over here, I do feel like too, they like in the States, I think it's more like you have to ask for someone to come help you with lactation a lot of the time. Like they're not usually like sending someone in, where over here it's like standard, like someone's coming in to check. Hey, is breastfeeding going well? If not, let me help you, you know, or sometimes it's not even, it doesn't matter if it's going well or not. They're still checking like, hey, let me make sure this is good. And the latch looks good. And you know, cause I told them, how's breastfeeding? It's great. It's fine. Like, let me see. Yeah. I'm like, I literally just fed him. Which like, we got to see. It could be annoying, but then it's also like, it's nice if you think about it, you know, you're like, okay, like it's great that they're being so thorough about this and they're sending a specific person in just for this job, you know? Wasn't because, okay, maybe it's my third and I'm comfortable with it, but like, what if it was somebody's first and they think they're doing great, but it's not. And they can say, oh, look, this is happening or whatever. Yes. Yeah. I remember, like, I still remember tips that the lactation consultant gave me in the hospital after giving birth to Olivia. Like, just simple things like, okay, like make sure her head is like in line. If she's like down low, it's like the angle is going to be really hard for her to drink milk. So like
put her up on something, you know, so you're not having your arm like super tired all the time holding her up, like have something underneath, you know, just those little things.
Get your whole nipple in their mouth. And I'm like, really? The whole thing? Like, you don't think about it. I'm like, okay, shove it on in there.
Yes, but no, it's so true. It's just, that stuff I just think is so amazing that they do that over here. Okay. So thinking about your 3 births, like 3 pregnancies, 3 births, what's one like piece of advice, if you could just pick one thing that you would give to people, maybe like, and it doesn't even have to be someone going through it overseas, but just like going into having first child, like something that you think looking back, like, oh, I wish I knew this going into pregnancy and delivering a baby.
I think just being open with your OB of all of your concerns, all of your questions. I feel like I'm kind of a more like shy, timid. I'm not that I'm shy, but just like I kind of hold things back, like, oh, maybe it's a silly question or this and that. So I do wish I would have asked a little more to be a little more prepared. Like, because one thing that I did during my first birth was they had given me the Pitocin and I was going through contractions. And if you've had Pitocin, you know those contractions are insane.
Yeah.
And they'd asked me, do you want the epidural? And I'm like, no, not yet. They didn't, that was it. You know, I just said, no, not yet. Because in my mind, I thought, once I get the epidural, it's going to slow down the labor.
Yeah.
That was what I had thought and knew.
Yeah.
So I didn't want it yet because I didn't want to slow down the labor. So then I went through like 2 hours of like horrible contractions. So then I think at my appointment, I said to my midwife, yeah, like those, you know, first 2 hours were insane. And she's like, well, why didn't you get the epidural earlier? I'm like, well, I didn't want to slow it down. She was like, honey, you were on Pitocin. If you're on Pitocin, it doesn't slow down your labor. I'm like, well, nobody told me that. I didn't have to go through those 2 hours of crazy pain. So I think just like asking the questions, like be open, be honest, ask the silly questions. Who cares?
Yeah.
Be honest with yourself about how you're feeling, especially postpartum. Like, surely we all go through baby blues to some degree.
Yes.
Be honest with yourself, you know?
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's so important. And just being able to like think about those things now and reflect on them and like give that knowledge to other people, because it's true. It's like, we think it's a dumb question, or, you know, oh, like, I don't know.
Or you think, you know.
Yeah.
I thought I knew that it slows down labor.
Like, and you just don't. And I think just, educating yourself and being able to like ask those questions, form a team around you, like, just, I don't know, finding support.
Also, I think it's so important for women to kind of have a plan with your husband.
Yeah.
Before you give birth, because that's always those first few weeks. You're like, because they can't do anything, you know, you're breastfeeding, it's all on you.
Yeah.
So by the 3rd one, me and Brandon really had it down. But I think with obviously with Zaylee, I was kind of by myself, so I was on my own for the most part. But we kind of had a system. We just found a system that worked for us of like, okay, I'll do the breastfeeding in the middle of the night, and then I'm going to give the baby to you. We had the doc tot in our bed between us. I said, I'm going to give the baby to you. You burp him and get him back to sleep so I can get back to sleep ASAP.
Yeah.
Because I only have a short window to sleep.
Yeah.
And if I sit there and burp him, by the time he falls asleep, I mean, that's 30 minutes that I could have been sleeping. So, so that worked really well for us. But I think just like kind of obviously things are going to change, you know, but having a plan, being open, like, this is going to be your responsibility, and make that clear to them, because they don't know.
No, that is so true. That's a really, really good thought, because we don't think about that at all.
No.
And it's so true. It makes such a difference when you have, these are our jobs, you know, like you have to like delegate stuff.
Right. Oh, 100%.
Because otherwise it's all on you. And especially I think in our lifestyle too, like the guys are traveling, they're not home all the time.
Yes.
So like a lot of the time it is just you. So when they are home and they are able to help, like giving them jobs, they don't know when to step in. Like you have to tell them, because otherwise they're just like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to sit here. But they want to help. Like they want to be involved. So like being able to, just come up with a plan. That's such a good idea.
Or if you're not breastfeeding, okay, your job is when the baby wakes up to go get the bottle ready. Cause it's so difficult for me to get out of bed or whatever. So I think with Zaylee, once I weaned her, that was Brandon's job. Middle of the night, if she cries, you go warm up the bottle, bring it to me. I'll feed her, I'll burp her, but like you get up and do that, you know, just make clear delegations, like you said, so that it just makes it a little easier.
Yes.
Anything you can do to make it a little easier.
Yeah, no, that is so true. That is like, I mean, I definitely think, especially for girls like living overseas and going through this life where the guys are gone and traveling, that part of it is even more important. And it's still important for everyone else too. But like when your husband's not there all the time, like when they are there, give them things to do and things to help you.
Yeah. And don't feel bossy.
Don't feel bossy. Yeah.
Because like they're not going to help if they don't know.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Brandon's always like, I would have much rather you just told me like, do this and like sit there and be stewing about the fact that I'm not doing
this. It's so true. No, that is so true. I know. Because Kevin and I had the same thing. Like, okay, I was breastfeeding too. Like, I'm going to feed Olivia. You're going to burp her and put her back to sleep. And it worked so well. Like neither of us were so exhausted because we both got a little bit of sleep. And like, obviously it has to change when they have a game or whatever, you know, the routine's a little different, but you know, when they just have practice, it's like, sorry, you're going to have to be a little tired for practice today. Like, okay, you can sleep in a little, I'll get up when the baby's up in the morning, but you know, finding those roles for them. That's
well, and just feeling supported. You know, like that's such a huge thing. I think as a new mom is like, everything is on you.
Yes.
Everything is on you. And so to have just feel supported in whatever way is so important. Like whatever community, obviously we don't have big communities out here.
Yes.
Like we're lucky to have, you know, one girlfriend on the team or whatever, but we don't have big communities. We don't have people bringing us dinner. We don't have people, you know, friends checking in on us. So like to have just that support from your husband is so, so, so important. And obviously your girlfriends, if you have them around.
Yeah. But. No, that is so true too. Like, I think I've talked to a few other girls about this, like also just leaning on the girls that are overseas too, you know, like a lot of people are moms over here. They've gone through it. Like being able to find that support also helps so much because it can feel so isolating over here. Yeah. You know, you don't have your family around, you don't have your friends around, and like these people become family, you know? So it's like, I think being able to just remember that and keep that in mind. Like, okay, maybe it's not going to be the person that you're going to be friends with for the rest of your life, but it's like, you just find support where you can.
And we all understand that. We all understand that like we're all living this life. We're all away from our families, our comfort zones, whatever. Just, you know, use each other, lean on each other. Yeah. Or even if you know, sometimes like in Barcelona, I had two really good friends that weren't basketball related that lived really close to me. And I remember I just had Enzo and Brandon. It was his first road trip. So it was the first time I was like by myself with 3 kids. Yeah. And we had plans to go we're going to meet at the park or something. And like my morning was just falling apart. And I don't remember, I sent a message like I'm going to be late or something, but they just could read from that message that something wasn't right. Yeah. And so one of them FaceTimes me. She's like, do you want me to come over and help you? And I just lose it. I just start bawling. Oh. Yes, I do. I need help. Like whatever, you know, kids weren't listening, whatever it was, like trying to get out the door for the first time. Yeah. And like within, you know, 5 minutes, they're both at my door, giving me hugs, just like, we are here. Use us, call us. Yeah. And I was trying so hard to be strong. I can do this. I can handle 3 kids. Who cares? I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. I wasn't. I was not good. I needed help.
No, it's so true. And I think like you said, it doesn't have to be someone in the basketball community, but like finding that support over here, you know, you're not at it alone, and you have people that are so like more than willing to be there for you and help you. And you just have to be honest about how you're feeling. And even if you're good, like it's just great to have companionship and support, like for your mental health. It's like, you know, just surrounding yourself with people because everyone's looking for that. And everyone understands what you're going through. So hopefully this podcast too will help connect some girls and
absolutely.
You know, feel like, you know, you're not alone. And but anyways, well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited for everyone to hear your stories because I feel like it's just so helpful to hear like successful birth stories over here. You know, when girls are feeling conflicted about what to do, it's like you can give birth over here and have
great experiences.
Like, and so I think,
and even when the language is a barrier, you can still have great experiences.
Yes, exactly. And just finding, you know, doctors you feel comfortable with, like reaching out to like find, you know, other girls that have given birth over in the same country. Like, you know, we have a Facebook group. I know like Instagram is great for just finding people that have played there before. You know, there's so many women that have given birth over here. So just reaching out and asking questions and, you know, people can help you find a doctor and find a pediatrician and doing all these things. So it's just, I think it's great for us to share like these stories with people and, you know, hopefully give people a little more like peace of mind and just empower you guys a little bit to, you know, feel like you can do it and give birth and, you know, just, I don't know, just enjoy it too.
We all did it. We all survived.
Yeah.
I have great stories
yeah.
to tell and great adventures. Like how cool that I can say like,
yeah,
I had a kid born in Lithuania. I had a kid born in Spain. And
yes.
you know.
No, it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. But okay. Well, thank you so much.
Loved it.